Hey, it's Nathan, and today I want to give you guys a really quick and simple tutorial on a foundational element to mixing, which I think is really important. And that element that I'm going to talk about today is mixing order, which is the order in which you approach your mix so that things can come together in a more cohesive way, and also so that you have a foundation and a strategy in which to approach your mix so that you're not just like bouncing around randomly, even though that's part of the process. When you understand this, it's going to help you know why you're bouncing around, where you're going, what you're doing something for. So we're going to actually dive into a PowerPoint here because this is what's making it quick, is it's really just a strategy that you want to fix in your mind. So this PowerPoint is going to give you that strategy. So the first thing that you want to do when you're mixing is make sure that your volume levels are getting it to sound where you want the things to sound. So because mixing is a progressive process, at this stage, it's going to be a very rough idea of how you want things to be. And then you move on to stage 2, which is panning. Now, I'm not a big panner. I really believe more in either something is wide or center. That's just a personal thing, but there are 4 points that you pan to. I don't really think that there's any need to do it anywhere else, but this is just a personal thing. You either have something panned hard left, in which case there's typically something right that accents with it or plays off of it, or you have something right and that's the same situation, or you have something that's mono or stereo wide, and that's what I do. And then you move on to stage 3. Once you're done with your panning, you want to start beginning to tone shape. And this is the stage where everything really starts to come together in your mix. You're shaping the tones of your sounds that, whatever you want to be more forward in your mix is going to be EQ toned so that the frequencies that our ears are sensitive to grab onto them. It just jumps out at you. Things that are in the back of your mix are going to have less frequencies, less energy, which means you cut more away from them. You tend to low pass things that you want further in the back of your mix. So that's what you do at stage 3. And then at stage 4, you do your effects processing. This is where you add delay and reverb. As I'm composing, all I do at this stage is I just add delay and reverb. I don't worry about distortion because for me, that's more of a sound design thing. I don't worry about chorus because, again, that's more of a sound design thing / it's like more advanced mixing. And then the last stage that I do, which may be a surprise, is I do compression and expansion last. And the reason for this is just from my own experience. I like to compress things after they've been sent to delay and reverbs, because I like to see how the compression changes the way that the sound sounds within our reverb with our delay, because compression can influence the way those play with each other. Now, this mixing order can actually be simplified because as I'm putting a track together, I actually only focus on 3 steps. And number 1 is volume. I just focus on the volume. Number 2 is I just get the EQs to sound right. I do very basic EQing as I'm composing. And then I do just delay and reverb as I'm composing. And if I'm really in a hurry, I'll just do reverb and then save delay for later, because delay you might need to configure depending on what you're doing. So that's how I approach it. Now, if you follow this strategy in your mixes, it's going to give you a format where you can become clear on where you might be making some mistakes or what might be holding you back. Because if at the volume stage, things don't sound even close to what you want, then it usually means that your sample selection, your sound design, might need to be adjusted. So it's entirely up to you how you approach these things, but this is the order that I have in the back of my mind. Really, I just adhere to the volume, EQ, delay, and reverb as I'm putting stuff together, and the rest comes after the fact. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate this process to you. We've got a mix here. I haven't touched it in a while. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through that process on a few of the elements so you get a feel for how I'm just ordering things in my mind so that it's easier to navigate my mix. So we're going to play it and then we'll dive right in. Okay, so because I'm at the volume stage, I'm going to just fine tune some volume. So we had these hats that were coming in, which I'm going to reduce the volume of. So I like where that's at. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to look at some of our chords. Actually, no, I'm going to look at our melody. I want our melody to poke out a little more. So this is a little trick that I sometimes use on elements that are in the back to get them to kind of be more airy. Is I just boost this top end, and what I'm going to do is on the chords, I'm probably going to subtract a little bit from them, but because I'm lazy, I use the trick of a lazy person. I group them together, and this will be chords. And we're going to EQ them as one unit. So that's it for our EQing. And then we're going to do some panning, which I've actually already done. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to A-B the stereo width that I did. And this is on this particular chord. And that's a synth. And then the other one that we're not touching is a piano. And we're adjusting the width on the synth just because with everything playing, it just sounds better when I reduce that width to mono on our instrument. So we're going to have it starting out so that it's in stereo, and then I'll click this on and you'll notice how it just makes everything in the mix a little tighter. So I really like where that's at. At this stage, I would just add in some effects, which I've already done because I was mixing. I was doing a little bit of light mixing as I put everything together. And then once everything's put together, I might do some compression. So let's listen to what we've got and see if we can't compress something. So what we can do is we can compress this chord that we've got here, this layer of piano and synth, so that it interacts with everything a little bit better in the mix. This is that tone shaping that I'm talking about, where you can use an EQ to tone shape a sound all the time. It's always shaping the tone of the sound 24/7 in the same way. A compressor does it based on the time characteristics, the time/volume characteristics of your sound. So this gives you a little more control of how the sound plays in a period of time. So we're going to be controlling how the sound plays that way. So we're going to just play everything, and we'll see if we can't get this compressor to get it to sit a little more comfortably in the back of the mix. So keeping in line with tone shaping our sound over time, you're going to notice I'm not going to add any makeup gain on this compressor because I'm using the compressor to shape the sound over time. I actually want it subtracting that volume from the sound after about 14 milliseconds. I want that volume subtracted because it just allows the chords to sit a little better in the back of the mix. And then I set the release so it's quick enough so the compressor can react. So this is how I'm using compression to tone shape. I'm not compressing because I had to. I'm compressing the sound so that the way that it fits with the mix is cleaner. And this is a more advanced form of compression. You know, the other scenario of compression is that, you know, you've got a vocal like this, you know, what you're listening to my voice now, this is going to be compressed. So if you need an example of compression, notice how the volume isn't all over the place. So that's compression. You're compressing the volume so it's consistent over time. That's the other way that you can use it. So moving on, once you're done with dynamics, you're pretty much done with everything. That's just the way that I approach it. You know, if you guys want this chart, I can post a link of it up for you guys, and you can just look at it. I mean, it's in this video, and you can just watch it. It's very simple. Just keep in mind you have step 1, which is volume. If you want to follow the simple way, you have step 1 for volume, step 3 for EQ, which is step 2, and then your last step, which is just delay and reverb. That's it. You follow that. If by the time you're done with your song, if it doesn't sound like it's 80% there, then at the initial stages of sound selection, you need to really, reevaluate what you're doing, because if at the initial stages you're not getting something that you're happy about, then you're making it way too hard on yourself. You got to pick things that you like and then just move forward. So let me know what you guys think. Leave some comments below, and see you guys in the next one.